All right. We're gonna work on this section 3. This is the last section, by the way, of the chapter. Last section of the chapter. That means tomorrow we're going to check the assignment and start reviewing. Here's what we do on this one. We have to determine the slopes. How do we determine slopes? How can we determine slopes? It's our change in y over our change in x. Or in this case, when we have 2 points, it's the change in this slope, or these y's, over the change in these x's. All right? So if we take a look at this first one here, what's the slope of this one here? Damien, what's the slope of this line right here? What's the slope? Slope formula. We have -4, 3 as 1 point, and we have -2, -2. What's our slope going to be? Slope formula, Damien. What's the difference between this y and this y? What's the difference between them? If I was to draw a line like this, I'd go 1, 2, 3, and I'd go 1, 2 in the negative, right? What's the difference between these two? What's the difference between these two? What's the distance between these two? What's the distance between these two? Is anything... 2 plus 3 is what? 5. So my distance here is 5. All right? So that's going to be my change in y, is going to be 5. What's my change in x, Damien? What's the distance between my x's? 2. But they're in the negative, aren't they? So this would be a -2. So -5/2 right here, this is this slope here. -5/2. What's the slope on this one? What's the slope on this one, Damien? I've got -1, 6, and I've got 1, 2. What's the slope on that one? It's my change in y. Four. What's my change in x? -1 to up to 1. So you'd go a -1 minus a 1. -2, right? Oh, the number line? I got 1 here, and I got -1 here. Right? If you were going to do it on your, looking at the, Damien, if you're going to do it looking at the slope formula, which is right here, all right, this is how I do it. I look at 6 minus 2, right? That's the difference I got there. That's 4. -1 minus a 1 is a -2. See how I did that? You got a bug around your fly, eh? So, -2 would be the slope at this one. Minus 2. Are those the same slopes? Are they the same slopes? Is negative 5/2 the same as negative 2? No, they're not. So these lines are not parallel. See how we can figure out if they're parallel or not? Kaylee. Katie. I want to look at this one here. I want to know if those two lines are parallel. What do I have to do? You do the slope for them, right? So whatever my slope is for this one and my slope is for this one, if they happen to equal each other, then we know they're what? Parallel. If they don't equal each other, then what do we know? They're not parallel. All right? So that's how we can tell by knowing if they're parallel or not, is by having the same slopes. We know how to figure slopes. We've done this many times. All right, let's take a look. These are parallel lines. What it's saying here, write an equation of a parallel line to AB. I'm going to take AB. I'm going to take AB, and I'm going to look at this equation. Y equals a negative 5x plus 12. What's my slope in this equation? Negative 5, right? There's my slope. What point do we go through? Negative 2, 1. What formula do we put it in? Point slope formula. We've got a point, we've got a slope. Amber's correct. We put it in a point slope formula. We've done this before, right? Yeah. Okay, so I have to show you that? Nope, I shouldn't have to show you that. You guys know how to do this. You've done it before. So that's how you'd figure out this part of it. How do we know what something is perpendicular? If I have two slopes, slope 1, how do I know it's perpendicular to slope 2? How do I know? If I see a slope of 1/4, what's the perpendicular slope to that? Katie. You guys, I taught you about perpendicular slopes, right? Invert negative. 4/1 and make it a negative. Invert it and make it a negative. Kaylee, how do we make a perpendicular slope? How do we make a perpendicular slope, Katie? Invert it and make it negative. All right? If I give you a slope of 2/3, Ken, how would I make that a perpendicular slope? 3/2 and then what? Negative. Damien, if I have 3/4 for a slope, what's my perpendicular slope? So what would it be? 4/3, negative. Kaylee, I have 3/7. I want the perpendicular slope. What is it? Kaylee, what is it? Don't know. Cade. Okay. So we know how to make a perpendicular slope. If we took a look at these slopes, we have numbers, we have the points here, 1, 0, negative 4, 4. Can we find a slope for that one? If I use the points here, 3, 0, and 1, negative 3, can I find a slope for that one? If the slopes look at, and they're inverse negatives, would they be perpendicular? Yes, that's how we determine whether these lines are perpendicular or not. Slopes are going to be inversed and negative of each other, okay? That's how we figure these out. So when we go down to this one here, and they say the equation of a line is perpendicular to the point P, what's my slope in this one? 2. So what would my slope be when I put it into the point slope formula? If I want the perpendicular line to it. It'd be negative 1/2. If I have 2 for my slope, and I want to find the perpendicular slope to that, negative 1/2. All right? So for this one here, I show my slope is 2, and I put it into this point. I want to put in negative 1/2 as my slope into the point slope formula. All right? That's how we figure this out. You guys ready to rock it? Let's take a look here. What do we got? Do number 1, number 2, number 1 and 2, then do the odds, 3, 5, 7, 9, okay, 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 9, and then I want you to do the odds on the back page, 15, 17, 19, 21. Don't worry about 23. Don't have to do 23. 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 15, 17, 19, and 21. All right, go to town.